We've got 1 hour. I've had lots of questions. I'm actually happy to go longer, but I'd imagine that most people on this call will have other things to do. So I'm not going to be pushing you off after an hour, but I'll try and get through as many as I can in that time. I'd like to do more of these in the future, so don't panic if we don't get everything done. I hope to do more. And I think it's important to recognize that people on this call are going to come from different levels of swimming expertise. There are going to be some that are coaching or swimming at the high level, and others that are lesser of ability, if you like. So I'm going to try and cover as much as I can through here, but please be a little bit patient, because some of this will be a recap for people that already know what's happening. Just a quick list of the things that I want to cover off today. I want to do a very quick refresh on how to read data. Just a quick comment on video syncing. I want to talk a little bit about implementation, particularly when it comes to teams and squads. What's probably going to spend the most time is talking about patterns that I see in data. And I'm going to step you through a document that we've created that's still a work in progress that looks at 11 different sets of patterns of data and explains what's going on. So that's probably going to be the thing we'll spend most time on. I'm going to talk about EOI, a little bit of an update on EOI, the AI platform. I'm also going to cover off what's coming down the pipeline, what's happening in the future. And I'm going to try and address some of the specific questions that aren't covered in the previous topics. So let's get in. Let's get into it. So first of all, I just want to remind everybody that this is primarily a biomechanical technology. It's about the biomechanics of swimming, crossed with some metrics with respect to effort. So there's technique and there's effort that comes through this. So it's all about, what that paddle is doing. You paddle from your elbow to your fingertips, what it's doing through the stroke. So let me first share my screen and start with some charts that most of you, I hope, will have seen. But to be sure, just to very quickly flick through, these are some ForceField charts, specifically for freestyle, backstroke, and butterfly. Anybody that's looking for breaststroke, I'm really sorry I can't share those with you yet. I don't have them. I don't have enough access to elite data from breaststrokers. But you can see here we're looking at this is a freestyle. This is a freestyle chart showing not just explaining what's going on over here with the 6 numbers in the ForceField chart, but on the right-hand side, these are our target percentages. And this is really important because it enables us to not only measure where we are, but also understand where we can get to and where we should be getting to as swimmers. And you can see here, we've got these percentages for freestyle, we've got them for backstroke, and we've got the same for butterfly. And again, every document that you're going to see in here, we're going to be sending to you. So don't panic and freak about not being able to copy down numbers or what have you. You'll be getting a package next week, which will cover off each of these attachments and other documents I'm going to step through. So again, it's really important that we're understanding not just where those forces are being applied, where that power is being applied, but critically where we can get to. And that's what these numbers over here represent for each of those 3 charts. And just for anybody who might not be completely across this with respect to these 6 numbers at these 6 directions, these are the directions that the hand can move in water. So it's a question of left, right, up, down, forward, and back. Fred, do you want to say something, mate?
Just a quick question to clarify. I received this, but this is based on power or newtons on what? Because like you mentioned the videos, then the hand drag data will differ if it's because of the velocity, right? You mentioned that like when we're
It's up
looking
to
at
you. It's up to you. It's up to you, mate. You get to choose whether you want to look at it in newtons as a function of force or in watts as a function of power, and that's in your preference settings on the platform.
yeah, I understand this, but like, do these numbers are
Oh, sorry. Yeah, these are newton. This is force. This is
okay?
force.
Okay,
Because the force field is the one chart we do not display in power. We don't give you a power field, we give you a force field. Sorry,
clear.
Fred, I misunderstood your question.
Thank
So yeah, understanding the basics of, which way my hand is pushing, what is my angle of attack of the hand is critical, and that's what impacts these. I want to, so I think I don't want to go into this any more deeply. Like I said, these charts will be supplied, but these in conjunction with our YouTube channel, for anybody that's unsure, you can dive into a little bit deeper. I'll just make a quick comment with respect to video syncing. Video syncing is really great on the platform. You can do it on the platform. Now, there's a video on our YouTube channel explaining how to do this, but for anybody that wants to sync with video that hasn't got the capability to capture the flash, because those of you who've seen it or done it will know that you want to capture the flash on the handset when you're recording on video. If you can't do that, you might have a fixed underwater camera that you're using, so you can't capture that flash. The nudge function is there to be used for that. So that nudge function that you'll see on the platform enables you to freeze the data and move the video and then resync it. So if you sync it, just start video, start data, and then find a place in the data, stop it there, hit the nudge function, that'll freeze that data, then you can move the video to that point, and then you can refine it from there. So I'd urge anybody that hasn't used it or that wants to use it to go to the YouTube channel to see more. Tyler.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with the video that I've seen the video on the YouTube channel, and there the instructions are to sync the video with the first instance of the light disappearing, and then you also suggest to kind of, if you do have the capability to do that, do so, but then use the nudge feature whenever the athlete entered the water and the hands were submerged as well. To me, it seems like it would just be most accurate to like leave the frame as it was initially set rather than try to adjust it with that with the sanity check there that you had. So I just do you recommend adjusting it the second time? Like, can you kind of
Only if you can see that it's out, mate, because if you look at, for example, the force versus time data, you can see exactly when that hand hits the water and you can see when it exits the water. And sometimes you might be out by a frame or two, and therefore that nudge function is great for saying, I'm going to freeze the data, I'm going to advance or retard the video by 1 or 2 frames, whatever you want, and then resync. That's the primary purpose of the nudge. All right. I'm going to push on because we've got a lot to go through. I want to talk a little bit about EOI. Let me share my screen here. For anybody that is not seen the video, doesn't understand, over here on the top right-hand corner is the blue EOI button. This is only for freestyle at this stage. And if you are within your swim, if you click on that button, then it offers here to generate a new report if you haven't run one. And then once it runs, it downloads. And then I've already got this one downloaded, so I'll open this up. Let me just open it up just to show you. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got it set in the Korean language, so it comes out in the language that your browser's set to. This was done. I did this yesterday with a Korean guy to just explain it to him, so that's why it looks like that. So, but I would recommend to you guys to be able to play with that and have a look at it because it's really thorough. We've got some improvements that are coming down the pipeline for that too. But just before I give you a little bit of an update on those, breaststroke, it's going to take quite some time for breaststroke. We will be pumping out butterfly and backstroke in the not too distant future, but breaststroke's going to take quite a while because it's such a difficult stroke. Recommendation here is when you do generate a report, don't go to the preview, go to download. It's better to download it. You can then edit it. For coaches, you can then edit it, put in your own comments, and send it to the athlete. And like I showed you, the language will set itself to your browser. So if you prefer to be looking at stuff in German, then you can if your browser's set in German, you can. I'd like to now move on a little bit onto implementation. This is one of the areas where a lot of people in the team and squad environment struggle. And so we created this step-by-step guide for coaches. Again, we'll be sending this out. But this also has some stuff in here that's relevant for individuals. And so these are the 6 steps that we really strongly recommend that coaches apply when implementing that in a squad scenario, because just to put it basically like this, there's 2 ways of using this system. There is the Joe Public way, where I'm working on myself, or I'm working with I'm a coach working with an individual elite athlete, and we're going to really have a deep dive into that from a coach's perspective. It's going to be very coach-led. So, for example, I've been doing some stuff with Caleb Dressel and his coach, and so he's got his team of coaches, and it's not Caleb that's responsible for analysing his data. Now, that doesn't work in a college or large club circumstance where it needs to be athlete-driven, and where we have to put the onus on the athlete to get the data, to download the data, analyse the data, make the changes, and then look at the outcome of those changes. And that's the responsibility of the athlete. And when the athlete needs help, they then go to the coach and says, "Hey, coach, I need some assistance. Can you help me out on this or this?" You can't use this system in a squad scenario with the coach having to look at all the data. And so these are the 6 steps that are really important in that scenario. And the one thing that I'd like to highlight, particularly to individual swimmers as well, who aren't operating in that team scenario, is step 4, which is a baseline. So I'd really recommend that whatever your go-to swim is, if it's a 1500 meter or 2K or whatever, do a baseline swim up front, and then do a series of time trials as you progress. And you've got that baseline, and you've got those ongoing time trials to be looking back and comparing. And the reason this is so critical is because it's one thing changing this stuff in training, but it's another thing under race conditions. Am I keeping those changes? Am I maintaining those changes, or am I backsliding? Am I improving my technique and then backsliding under a race scenario? And they're obviously short of wearing them in a race, which you can do. They're approved by World Aquatics for use in race. But short of that, the next best thing is to do time trials and to monitor how you're progressing. And you'll see on your dashboard of your swim here, of your swim platform, you'll see this plus sign where you can set filters, and you can create filters so that you might have 500 swims in your account, but you can say, just show me my 800 meter swims in a 50-meter pool. So I don't really want to dwell too much on the implementation, other than one comment I'll make with respect to, how do I put this nicely? Low-level swimmers, people like me, rubbish swimmers. When you're starting out, just focus on 3 basic charts, right? We just want to focus on, say, the stroke rate and force, the force field, and the consistency. And really, it's your force field that should be your absolute go-to. This is the one that you just want to concentrate on. I'm carrying too much downward. I need to shift it into propulsion. How can I do that? How can I work on that and make that happen? And those are the only things, as a basic swimmer like myself, that you need to concentrate on, as opposed to the higher level guys. Right, now I want to get into the 11 patterns that I see that I think will be an important part of this discussion. Sorry, I've got to get to, let me just minimize. What have I done? I'm such an idiot, I'm sorry. Hopefully you can still see my screen. Somebody yell if you can't see my screen.
We can see it.
Yeah, we can see it fine.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so I'm gonna rip through this because you're gonna get this document, and hopefully it'll be sufficiently clear for you to understand how to bring it all together. A little bit of preliminary stuff, and then I've got these 11 lots of data, like I said. So the first one is about total power and balance, and you can see down here the right hand and the left hand, right in blue, left in orange. You can see we're pushing a lot more. This is just about total power, and that right hand is pushing a hell of a lot more than the left. Don't get too caught up in all this detail in here because I haven't proofread it yet, which is why it's not going to go out until next week, because I've got to proofread it and do some tweaks, as you'll see. So it's just at this stage, just want to give you a quick snapshot of what you're going to get. So, you know, what you'll see, what it means, why it matters, some issues around coaching priorities, and some key distinctions as well, and particularly which chart we're looking at. When we look at the next one, this isn't about total power imbalance. This is about the propulsive imbalance. And as you can see down here with the darker colors, this is the propulsion on the orange that's generated on the left hand, and the blue is on the right hand. And you can see in each lap, we've got a significant propulsive imbalance. Same story, same format. Excessive downward force, identified here through seeing the downward. And for those of you with eyes like mine, I have to get very close. That's showing downward at 51%. And ideally for a sprinter, we want 32 to 37, or for a distance swimmer, 17 to 22. Again, you know, what it's causing it, in this case, I think I'm missing something on here. Yeah, breathing, potential breathing impact. It could be that, but energy is supposedly lifting the body. It's not necessarily lifting it, but supposedly it's lifting it. So, and look, guys, I see there's some stuff coming in chat. I can't see the chat when I've got this screen on like this. So if you've want to call out stuff, we might wait till the end and then we can cover it off. So I'm not being rude. I just saw a thing pop up saying there's a chat's come in. So don't think I'm ignoring you. I'm not. And again, coaching priority, excessive downward. And then connected with excessive downward is also when we see hand drag, which can be identified both in here on the hand drag, we're showing 6%, which doesn't sound a lot, but that's huge. And in here, you'll see it in the force versus time or power. In the force versus time curve, you can see it where we're showing negative propulsion in the glide. That's hand drag. But when we see them together, what that means is that's about a dropped elbow. That's the hand turning up at the end of the glide, the elbow's dropped. The hand is now in that position, which means it's going to have to come down a long way before it gets into the catch, into a position of propulsion, which does several things. It delays the catch, and it's creating, it's robbing propulsion by forcing too much downward. So this is a really key point that you can see in your data. Stroke to stroke variability. And I've given a little bit of a snapshot down here. Basically, the point I'm trying to make here is, because ideally you want to get into and analyze deeply some of the strokes. It's absolutely pointless doing that when we're seeing data all over the place like crazy. Because when you're dealing with a lower level athlete and you are getting erratic data, you don't want to be trying to overanalyze this athlete. What you want to be doing is going back to what I said before, just that whole force field, and concentrating on improving that force field and getting the power balance and the propulsion balance right, and looking at hand path. And when we look at hand path, the two things are that I look for here is inconsistency. And you can see here, we're talking about, that hand path having a range of activity around it, where it's going, positional variation, where we're looking for consistency. We really want it to be repeated beautifully, which is a really important piece. And again, why it matters and the coaching priority, as you can see there. So it's important to identify this stuff. And one of the best friends you've got in this scenario is a snorkel, because what you really want to do is identify whether the erratic changes in the hand path are caused by the breathing. And the best way to determine that is put a snorkel on. And if suddenly it tightens up, then you've got your answer. You now know that it's breathing that's affecting it, and that's going to be added to this chart. I'm just going to quickly change to show you something on here and highlight something here, and hope I've got, yes, I do, and highlight something in hand path, because some of you will have seen this going on. Now, this is a technical problem with the firmware, where once you get above a certain speed of stroke rate, and it tends to be around the 42 to 45, then I won't go into the technical details, but it delivers a hand path or a consistency like this. Now, the rest of the data is fine. The force data, the directional data, everything's fine. It's purely the positional data that looks like this. Now, the good news is, within the next 2 weeks, we're pushing out an update to the firmware that will fix this. It's releasing a 16G setting in the accelerometer that then will rectify this problem. So when it comes to high-speed sprinters, you'll definitely want to update the firmware when you see it. So keep an eye out for that when it comes through. But that is the cause of that. When you see something like this, when you've got a sprinter going high, don't think, their consistency is really lousy. It's not. It's us. And like I said, that will improve significantly by the end of this month. Moving on from hand position inconsistency, I want to talk a little bit about asymmetry. And this is a perfect example of a triathlete who's got two very different journeys that the hands are going on. You can see there that right hand is bizarre compared to the left hand. And I know in working with this chap and going through his data, I know it's all breathing. And you can easily, again, you can identify this normally by just putting a snorkel on, doing it again, and seeing if you can get that symmetry right. And if you can, it's breathing. But with this guy, the breathing, it's actually not, the breathing wasn't the cause. It was to do with flexibility and mobility, so that he couldn't rotate his head like this without rotating his shoulders. And you can see this right hand, how it came right in like that, because as he's breathing to the left, that whole body was rotating. And so he had to go and see a PT, had to get looked at with respect to his flexibility and mobility, because frankly, something like this can impact way more than just swimming. This is a life issue, not just a swim issue. But regardless, when you do see asymmetrical hand paths, the snorkel is your best friend. And if you can identify it as breathing, then really want to spend a bunch of time looking at how to improve breathing. Right, double peaks, or what I like to call the valley of lost propulsion. And you can see down here in his power versus time or force versus time curve, you can see halfway through every stroke, we're losing power, or sorry, losing propulsion, not power, we're losing propulsion. And up here on the left-hand side, you can see common causes tend to be either that hand is rolling as it tends to get to the outside of the hand path and it moves inwards, it rotates. And so not only is the hand moving inwards, but it's rolled and is facing inwards and pushing inwards. So no longer are we pushing backwards propulsively, we're now pushing in. We've transferred that energy from back to inwards. Or alternatively, the hand velocity suffers. And you can see that now when you've got hand velocity in these charts, And you can see quite often, you'll see that hand velocity peaks at the top and it drops as the valley comes into play, and then it goes back again when you get to that second peak. And so as we say here, it's either one or the other, or it can be a combination of both. So this is not for beginners. This is for more, when you're getting into more refinement and looking at tweaking and looking at for those smaller improvements. This is quite important. Excessive lateral force, as you can see, chart to come. I said it was a work in progress. When we see too much lateral is another one. This one's quite interesting. This is broken wrist. And a broken wrist is basically, it's about the pitch of the hand, and the hand not being vertical as it's coming through, about it being angled like this and angled downwards. Hopefully you can see my hand. And there's a great video on our YouTube channel of a 1,500-meter swimmer in the finals of the World Championships in Singapore in September, October, whenever it was. She came 7th in the finals of the World Champs. And we've done an analysis of her data, and she's got a broken wrist. So you can imagine if you've got that broken wrist happening where you're not generating that as much hold and grip on the water as you could do and you should do, and you can rectify that, then the opportunity is to improve from 7th. And the way that we see this, particularly, and you can see that red line there, because I'm looking at vertical and propulsion together. So this is the hand path and power, or hand path and force chart. And I've got that red line positioned exactly at the peak of propulsion and exactly at the peak of the downward. So she's generating maximum propulsion and maximum downward at exactly the same time. And not only that, that's where her hand is. And at that point, that hand should be purely vertical, but it's not. It's like this, and it's coming through like this. Hopefully you can see that clearly. And that is an absolute giveaway for a broken wrist, because what you're looking for is you're looking to get through that downward, particularly distance swimmer, to get through that downward phase early and then have as long as you can holding that propulsion. And this isn't a huge occurrence. That's why it's ranked at number 10, right? But it's great when you can see that. It's great that you can see it and identify it. And lastly, it's about upward force. And this is about upward force at the end of the stroke. It's about immediately prior to the hand exiting the water. What we're looking for is that last effort to be a propulsive effort. We want that hand pushing back towards our feet, not pushing up to the sky. And you can see here, we identified in here. In this case, there's 11% upward force that's being generated. And we can also see it in the force versus time or power versus time chart, where that purple line, when it comes down below the x-axis, that's the downward component. And then at the end, as you can see, immediately prior to that hand exiting, which it exits right there, immediately prior, it's pushing up and it's generating upward force. That's a real opportunity. Now, you'll see up here, I've said here, small values, 3 to 4% are negligible. Now, this is different to hand drag. 3 to 4% of hand drag is very impactful. 3 to 4% here, I wouldn't really be worrying about anything that or lower. When you're getting up around here at 11%, it's a really nice opportunity, as long as you've rectified other things that you might have noticed. Right, so let me get rid of that. And like I said, that document is going to come through to you guys next week, along with everything else. So hopefully that'll help. I want to talk a little bit about what's coming down the pipeline. A few things. EO improvement, really important. EO is like awesome. I know I'm biased. EO is really good right now in terms of giving you some detailed understanding of what's going on. Where it falls over is it doesn't prioritize. And we all know you can only change one thing at a time. So the great thing about EOI is it'll tell you, look, you got 4 things you need to work on. What it doesn't say is ignore these 3 and just focus on this one to start. So that's going to come where it'll be a prioritization, which frankly comes back to the force field. It's all about looking at the force field and working out where I can get the biggest gains, where I'm wasting as more percentage. How can I transfer it, whether it's from laterally or vertically? How can I transfer that into my propulsion? So that's going to happen. Another thing that's going to happen with the EOI, which will take a bit longer, is to then be able to comment on your progress over time. But you can appreciate the complication here is we're dealing with many variables, right? Frankly, I don't want it to comment on, I don't want it to mix my 50 meters with my 800s. I want it to be able to comment on just my 800 progression over time. So we've just got to work through that as to how we're going to deliver that. But that's going to be, that's on the drawing board as well as butterfly and backstroke. So I want to get the improvements done of freestyle before we do then fly and back, but they will come through too. In the next 2 weeks, the app is going to be updated, and the platform for team and license membership management will be updated. Significant changes. I need to apologize to anybody that's using the membership management for teams. It is a bloody nightmare. Sorry, just before I go into that, David, you want to know what the difference is? I'll come to that at the end, mate. I want to apologise for anybody that's battled the membership management for teams. It's a nightmare. We've finally got it sorted and fixed, and there's a whole new, much more user-friendly platform coming out. Due by the end of next week. Let's give the boys an extra week. It'll be by the end of the month. So that's going to be important. Likewise, the app's updating, which will include filter function. So if you're like me, I've got God knows how many thousands of swims in mine. I can't filter them. Now you'll be able to filter them. And you'll see there's a bunch of other stuff that's going to be a lot quicker and a lot better for you in the app. I mentioned before the 16G issue, the erratic hand position for sprinters. So like I said, that's coming out. But also we're working on one of the other challenges we've got for sprinters is under really high speed with the most elite of the elite athletes. Sometimes the handsets can pop off. And so we're creating a different little device that will sit with it specifically for sprinters that will then attach to the handset through another wrist strap coming onto the handset and lock it down on the back of the hand better. So that will come out in the future. It's going to take a while because we've just started working with Industrial Designer. And as well as that, I might add, we will at some point include a sprint mode. And the sprint mode will increase the amount of data points we collect. So what that will do is, the bad news is it'll turn if we go from 50 data points a second to 200 data points a second, it'll turn your 90-minute handsets into 22.5-minute handsets, but it'll give you way more data, much higher quality data, and this is for the real elite. Now, all that's just a firmware change. So when I say it'll change from 90 to 22.5 minutes, you can change it back to 90. It'll be in your control. So you don't need to worry about, it's going to change it forever. It's just going to give you a setting that you can use for the very high speed sprint stuff to give you even deeper element of data. I talked about improved member management. Now we're also going to have a very sophisticated data download dashboard. Now this is going to be restricted, and this is going to be restricted to researchers and academics, to elite, and to EO special partners. It's not going to be relevant for triathletes, except for elite triathlete coaches and federations. But, Joe Public, guys like me, I won't be interested in that. But for certainly for the elite, it's going to be really important, and you'll be able to do some incredible analysis at a biomech level. It's primarily going to be for biomechs. So that's why, I talk about the elite federations, Olympians working with biomechs as well as with academics. And also an improved download procedure where you don't have to click so many buttons. That's going to be coming through later on as well. Now, I want to talk about a couple of the questions that have come through. I've done pretty well to cruise through that in that time. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go straight down to the questions that you guys have asked. Let's have a look at this. Let's start at the top. Don't know that, don't want that. Read summary, God. I live in Syracuse, no one else can complain. Well done, Noel. Current video sync is only for force versus time. Is there a plan to enable hand path interface? Yeah. Not at this stage. This is Stan. Stan, not at this stage, but would be good to be able to do that. The idea is we shouldn't need to if you've got your video. And so if you're looking at your lateral moves, you want to be filming from in front. If you're looking at your vertical moves, you film from the side. But I know we are working on the possibility of double camera, 2-camera video syncing. So you'll get both views. Can I make small screen larger? I assume that was to do with what I was going out. Pinch out, yeah. Jamie, would you please elaborate a bit on the difference between hand drag and upward force? Right, David. So hand drag and upward force. David, can you pop your microphone on for a second? Are you talking about reading it in the data, or are you talking about what's creating it?
Reading it in the data. Well, actually
Okay.
both, but yeah, specifically reading it in the data.
Okay, share my screen very quickly. You won't see it in the power versus time. You will in the force versus time. So you need to set your settings to force versus time to see it. In here, right there, that point where we go from generating propulsion to absolute zero, that's exactly where the hand exits the water. This is where it's in recovery. And it's in recovery from here to here. There's the hit. That's where the hand's entering the water. This is the glide. And you can see in that glide, we're generating negative propulsion. That negative propulsion is hand drag. Okay? Very clear. This isn't probably going to, oh yes, he has. When I put his vertical on, this purple line below the x-axis, below the zero, that's downward. That's downward force generating. So that hand is coming from here, pushing down as it's trying to get into the catch and get into a position of propulsion. Right here at this point, that hand is flicking from pushing down to now pushing up. And this here is the upward force that we're generating. And again, you can see right there where that dotted line is, that's where the hand is exiting the water. And immediately prior, we're generating that upward force. That good? Cool.
Yeah, that's good.
Stan, really great patterns recognized by EO. Any benchmark to show what is elite performance? Okay. Stan, I get this question a lot. Obviously, we can't display like Kyle, Caleb, Panjandler. We can't display those. There's a couple of, let me give you a couple of tips. Number one, more power doesn't necessarily mean better swimmer, right? How do I put this? There are 3 key components to swimming. Propulsion, what we work on, kick, which obviously we're not touching at this stage, and body drag. And we know what the implications are for body drag. If you've got a lot of body drag or some body drag, it will kill you. So getting body position right and as optimal as possible is critical. And I can show you two swimmers, one doing, in fact, I had a triathlete contact me a couple of weeks ago saying, Jamie, I don't understand. I'm pushing a lot more power than my mate, but he's a much faster swimmer than me. And it's because my guy has got a body position like this, the other guy has got a body position like that. He's going through the water a hell of a lot more easier, and he doesn't need to generate as much power to move through the water. Whereas rubbish swimmers like me, who swim with our feet dragging, we have to generate a lot more power. So I'm loath to say this is a power profile of an elite athlete, because frankly, the only time that comparing power profiles, if I was taking Pan Chandler, Kyle, and David Popovich, right? Gold, silver, bronze from the 100. Sure, I'd want to be able to compare each of their power profiles, because they're all three are swimming at such an elite level that their drag is magnificent. The last thing I'd want to do is take Kyle's power profile and compare it against mine or anybody else. Yeah, and like I said before, we can't publish those elite guys' profiles, so I'm sorry. And it's the same, frankly, with hand path. You know, I have people contact me saying, Jamie, can you show me Kyle's hand path so I can copy that? It doesn't work that way, right? We've all got our own hand paths. So, you know, the most critical thing about the hand path is looking for balance and looking for consistency and symmetry, right? I wouldn't look. What I can show you, and I will show you to give you a little bit of an idea of what an elite hand path does look like, right? So if I come up here, this is the profile. This is what I see primarily for elite hand path, right? In freestyle, it comes out and we need to come a little bit wide to switch on our lats to generate the power that we want. It then comes in and then goes back. And you can see this is beautiful and symmetrical. It's not absolutely perfect. I mean, a perfect consistency has got one line on top of each other. He's got a little bit of movement in between, but it's a really good snapshot of what an elite level athlete's hand path looks like in freestyle. What else can we look for? Estimated date for sprint mode rollout. Tyler, I'm going to have to come back to you. I know Neil's on here. I think it's going to take some time for us to be able to generate the 200, whether it's 200 mate data points or 400 or 100. I can't commit to. We've got to drill into some more information about the accelerometer, but it's going to come. Josh, any of the updates change the view for iPad? Display on the iPad only suited for iPhone makes it difficult to use properly. Joshua, we haven't addressed this. That's not been something that we've looked at, but I'll take note of that and see if I can find any info. I don't expect anything to happen in the next round, but it might be able to do something later. Can I create folders and label as snorkel, AI breathing, sprinters? Jim, thank you. We'll feed that back to the dev guys. Like I said, Neil's on here. We'll feed that back. We'll take some a notice of that, because I think that might be good. Might be a good idea. And you'll see when we bring out the next iteration of the platform, which, like I said, ideally by the end of next week, but it might roll over to the following week, which tends to happen with all the things I predict. We've redone the layout where all your charts are listed vertically, where it's going to become a lot more intuitive. So hopefully that'll help. Bill, did you mention you didn't need to use the blink to begin the sync? Yes, I did note that we can use the nudge function, which is really great for that. Will we have in future coaches showcasing some usage? Yeah. This is one of my points that I've got to bring up now, is I'd like to create a community on a platform. And if anybody's got any ideas, please send them to support@eolab.com, because what would be really cool is if we can create some sort of community for the SwimBETTER users to be able to share problems, right? And trust me, I'm the idiot sitting at the back of the support email, and I get to see everybody's, I'm getting zero data, what's going on. So we can share those sorts of problems that we see operationally, or God forbid there's a hardware problem. Likewise, we can also share insights that individual coaches and athletes are seeing in data and seeing new stuff and sharing that with the community, and critically, fixes, right? Because you'll notice that everything that I've talked about today is about identifying problems and causes. I'm not telling you how to fix them for a number of reasons. I'm not a coach, but also critically, that's not our job. And that's why we're not here to take over the coach's role. We're here to assist athletes and coaches so that you've got the data. So to have a community base that everybody can go to swap stories and look, this is how I went from here to here. I did this and this, or used these drills or this equipment, I think would be really good. Possible to review data, Kelly, at poolside, Swim 200 review data, understand needed changes, then swim another two. Yeah, I got to tell you, Kelly, the very best way is this baby. You stick this at the end of the lane and you put it at the shallow end, right? Stick it at the shallow end, put a hand towel down. And if you want to do 200, great. I tend to find 2 laps is enough. You start recording, do 2 laps, come back, stand up, stop recording, dry your hands, grab your phone, open the app, download the data, and just look at the force field. And then you see, okay, I've got too much down, not enough propulsion. Great, start recording, do another 2 laps, same process. Okay, my downward's gone from 42 to 38. My propulsion's gone from 41 to 45. Great, that worked. I got to do more. Do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. It's what we call the fast feedback loop. As opposed to getting your data, going home, looking at it, coming back the next day, getting in the water and making changes. Nothing is better than doing it at the pool. But to use your phone, you really only want to be looking at your force field data. All the stuff that we're looking at, those points, those 11 points, where we're looking at power versus time charts. I mean, you can see your consistency data in it, of course, but all the other stuff where you want to have a deeper view, you really need your laptop. Now, everywhere I go, I take my laptop anyway. I stand on pool deck, working with athletes and coaches, looking at it on my laptop. But you find whatever suits you best. But if you can do that fast feedback loop, it makes a huge difference.
Good, thank you.
My pleasure, Kelly. Jose, yeah, mate, guess what? Endless pool settings coming out. Hopefully Neil won't kick me for this, but I'm pretty sure it's coming out in the next release at the end of next week, as is custom pool lengths. I'm never surprised at the amount of people that are swimming in 32-meter pools or 33 or 31.5-meter pools. So you'll be able to set your custom pool length. I had someone tell me once they had a 45-yard. So that functionality will be there. Likewise, endless pool. I don't think we're going to have it yet, but we will be rolling it out. Thanks, Neil. Sorry. Neil's just confirmed it won't be happening in this release next week. It'll be the one after. And likewise, you can appreciate when you're in an endless pool, it's just one bloody great big lap. And the problem we have isn't our system, it's actually the browser. Your internet browser can only cope with so much data, because when you upload it and you look at the power versus time or the force versus time, if you've got 15 minutes in there, it's got a huge amount of data which will crash your browser. Doesn't affect it, doesn't break anything, it just crashes your browser. So I know what Neil's doing, he told me this only yesterday, is when we put the endless pool mode on, it'll cut it up into 1-minute segments. So if you do a 15-minute swim, you'll have 15 laps. but there'll be 15 lots of 1 minute segments, which will get rid of that problem. Like I said, not the next release, but the one after. Fred, I don't know how to answer this one. An endless pool, people commenting about an increase in downward force measured during swims. I don't have data, Fred. I haven't heard that before. I don't know how we'd go about looking at that, but we might be able to do something. Let me come back to you, buddy, on that. I don't know. Bill, EOI suggesting best drills tied to opportunities. Yeah, absolutely. So right now, if you look at an EOI report, you'll see that there are some drills at the end. When I talked about improving EOI, we're going to include specific drills and videos of drills tied back to those, let's say those 11 things that we talked about before. We've got a plan to work with a coach to be able to develop in Canada to develop some unbelievable drills and some detailed information. So that's absolutely, thanks Bill for reminding me, that's absolutely in the plan, but it's not around the corner. It's still going to take some time. Jim, incorporate the sunblock. Yeah, absolutely. We will do that, but we're not going to do that until we do a hardware upgrade. And when we do a hardware upgrade, there's a couple of things I want to do. Number one, incorporate the sunscreen into it so you don't have to dick around with those. Number two, we will include a real-time clock. I tell everybody the biggest mistake we made was not putting in a real-time clock into the handsets as they currently stand, because if we had a real-time clock, now we can synchronize with heart rate and we can improve our video syncing and we can add other stuff as well. So that's going to happen. And one of the other things that Neil and I have been talking about is finessing the front end of the handset to sort of taper it down a little bit to try and minimize the amount of water that can squeeze in under high speed that can get in between the handset and the palm of the hand. Doesn't affect 95% of people or 99% of people, but there'll be, I think, a couple of small tweaks like that that'll come in with a hardware upgrade. But that, frankly, isn't going to happen for quite some time, but it will happen. Can I create folders? Yeah, Neil's commented on that. Thank you, Neil. Community is a Facebook group. Super simple. Yeah, Jim, you're just an old man. Young people don't do Facebook, mate, and I like to think that I'm still young. But thanks for the suggestion. I'm going to chuck that at the guys here and see what they can do. Estimated time for sprint we've talked about. Can I share plan on Stan to enable progress measurement, a numerical scoring of specific patterns? Yeah, Stan. Neil and I are actually working on something right now that's looking at trying to, let me put it this way. One of the things we have, and I noticed there was a question that came in on the registration, was from a coach saying they're working with a young athlete that just keeps spinning their arms faster and faster, and they don't understand why they're not going faster. Neil and I are working with this brilliant biomech in Italy who's identified a marker for trying to find the best level acceleration, because we know that if you move that arm too fast through the water, you're going to spin your wheels. You're not going to grip the water enough. So being able to take our measurements, and it's what we call the coupling ratio, and it's about coupling the paddle to the water and holding that water and finding that optimal measurement. And so that it's too early to say when, but we're definitely working on that refinement to be able then say, here's this great metric that you can see to work out where my optimal level of acceleration is. I mean, I pointed out to you previously that some of those double peaks we're seeing are caused or contributed to by a reduction in hand speed. So we want to really look at the acceleration of the hand through the water and how we can find that optimal measurement. Integrating EO with form goggles. Yeah, that's much further down the track, Jim. We need to change from Bluetooth to radio frequency, the transmission of data to be able to do real time. But yeah, That's something that I'd love to do. And it's not just for form goggles, it's also you can imagine a coach on pool deck with a device where they're like a Zygo, where they can communicate to the athlete, and they're seeing the data come through real time and then telling the athlete what to change or what to do, and instantly seeing the outcome. Even better than the fast feedback loop at the end of the lap. You can see it like on the spot. I've been in this pool, John. I used EO in pool prior. Anything to do now? Only at this stage, John, in an endless pool. Restrict your recordings to 5-6 minutes. And then you can just stop recording and start again and go more. So you can swim longer, but you do need to change. You want to stop your recording every 5 or 6 minutes so you're not crashing your browser. Endless pools the same as open water? No. But I've got a hack for open water. Now, it's not a full hack. It doesn't give you any open water however you want. And you'll appreciate, when we talk about open water, there's different kinds. You can come here to Sydney and go out in the surf and you've got massive waves. You'd never want to try using your handsets in that stuff because you're just going to have so many other, wave variables. You don't want to bother with it. But if we're talking, calmer waters, if we're talking lakes, rivers, and if we're talking like a calm sea, absolutely. But the hack is this. You can only swim from point A to point B and back. You can't go from point A to B to C to D. You can't do that. The direction is critical. You've got to go from point A and back like this. And you can do that. So I work with some elite coaches, tri-coaches in Germany who do this, and they have their athletes in the pool where they do the vast majority of their training. And then they'll put them in the open water and they'll pick these points and they'll get some data and they'll compare the two. Here's my open water. This is my technique in open water. This is my technique in pool. And then they can look and see if there are any changes or anything that they want to see. So that's a nice little hack to be able to transition a little bit into open water as opposed to going full on. At some point, we will put a GPS in it and we will engineer the software to enable us to do full open water, but that's not on the drawing board right now. Here we go. Coaches who only see 2 to 3 triathlon swimmers, would you say the 2 best metrics to focus on week to week? Yeah, Gerardo, it's the ForceField, mate, and it's like I said initially, it's balance of total power, it's balance of propulsive power, it's force direction, which direction in the 6 directions on the ForceField against those charts that I showed, and it's the swim symmetry, the profile, sorry, the hand path symmetry. Those are the things, and consistency. Those are the things, again, don't do them all in one go. Do one, then when you get that right, move on to the next one. And the good thing is as you move on to the next one, you're making sure that you're not sliding back on the first one. Google Groups, thanks, Phil, for the community. Correct way to sync the video to a perfect fit with graph data. Yeah, Andrew said the videos are there. Great. Yep. Yeah, on the YouTube channel. And look, if anybody's unaware of the YouTube channel, you can search EO SwimBETTER, I think, or EO. No, I think it's EOS. Oh, shit, I should know, shouldn't I? Sorry. Bear with me 2 seconds. How embarrassing is this? EO Sports Lab. If you search EO Sports Lab, you'll find our videos there. Click on the videos tab and you'll find all the videos there. Ronald, sorry, can't help you with open water data. I haven't had visibility into that. Jerry, he won't mind me saying it. Roland Schumann, Roland, South African swimmer, won a gold medal in Athens 2004 in the men's 4x1. So he's a sprinter. And a couple of years ago, I was working with Roland in Phoenix. Now, Roland, last year, or it was the year before, at the age of 43, went to the world champs in Fukuoka, right? So still at an amazing level. And earlier that year, he was pushing 76% propulsion as a sprinter, right? Remarkable. Don't know how he did it. but remarkable. Normally we see with sprinters, they're in that 55 to 60 range, which is where the very best sit, because they are generating more downward because they've got that straight arm. Cynthia's gone. Bye, Cynthia. Nagamata-san, when swimming from point A to point B in open water, should the distance be set to the same? No, it can be any distance you like, as long as you want to be within the 5 minutes. So you don't want to make it too far, but you don't need it. The only thing that I'll stress is if you're not doing exactly 50 or exactly 25, your distance per stroke will be wrong. You'll get some incorrect. Your distance swum will be wrong. It doesn't know how far you've swum. The only reason that it knows how far you've swum is it knows how many laps you've done and the length of the pool that you're in. So when we're talking about trialing it in open water, Nagamata-san, it's not about looking at those other metrics. It's just looking at your force allocation and is it changing, and does your power change? Fred's doing a few hundred meters with no issues. Thanks, Fred. Okay, I think, guys, look at that, 3 minutes after the hour. I was going to talk a little bit about some backstroke. I don't know if anybody desperately wants to know anything about backstroke. One thing that we are looking for is we're looking for case studies. We've got one case study that's come out. We've got another one that's just being prepared. We've got all the info in. We're just preparing it to push it out. Bill, I know you're on here. Give me your bloody information, Bill. You owe me. For another case study for Bill's 2 kids. Yes.
It's coming this weekend, Jamie.
Yeah, good man. I've heard that for a long time, Bill. Pull your finger out.
It's championships week, right? I mean, so I get it.
I know. If anybody else has got what we're looking for is from and to, in a perfect world, here's a snapshot of my ForceField where I was 38% propulsive. Here I am at 60. My time, I got one last week from a coach in the US who Jack's a great guy, and Jack sent it through, and he's at the ripe old age of, I don't know how old Jack is, but I'm probably going to do him a disservice here, but he'd probably be my age. And Jack's taken 10. He's a former elite swimmer. He's taken 10 seconds off his PB in the 1,000 yards, and his propulsive has gone from here to here. So, and he's also given me photos of his arm position too, showing how he's changed his elbow position. So we're looking for anybody that's got experience like that. If you are happy for your data to be published, for us to showcase it, please, that would be great. I reckon I've talked for an hour. Yeah, Kathleen, you're dead right. Jack is amazing. And yes, Bill, we could create a podcast, videocast channel for coaches. Look, thank you very much. Really appreciate all of you coming on. Like I said, we'll send out the pack next week. It'll have all the graphs, the charts, the 11-page document, and it'll have a link to this recording too. Thanks for being here, guys. Much appreciated. Bye-bye.